Hey guys, and welcome to the September 2015 edition of Casual Magic. I do one of these every month, and in them I talk about a super budget deck, usually under about 10 tickets on Magic Online, under about $50 in real cards. These decks usually aren't really intended for Friday night Magic play. They're usually more casual and have kind of quirky, kind of quirky decks. Last month, for example, I did a deck based all around Scry. But this week, I think this deck probably is, borderline one you could take to Friday Night Magic and have some fun with, depending on your metagame. And it's basically a mono green Stompy deck, which is a deck that's in Modern that just plays hyper efficient green creatures and just smashes face with them. And that's basically what we have here, a standard version of it. Based pretty heavily around Elemental Bond, because it can just keep you drawing more and more cards and playing more and more creatures. And so that's basically what the deck is. Almost every creature in the deck triggers Elemental Bond. It needs power 3 or greater to draw me a card. The only cards in the deck that don't do that are Elvish Mystic and Reverend Hunter, who, because of the way he's worded, he enters the battlefield and then they're put on him. He doesn't enter the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters, but he's good enough in this deck anyway because we're mono green. So I'll just go through the cards. Elvish Mystic. It's only going to be around for about one more month, so that's part of the reason I decided to do this deck. It's fun to have Elvish Mystic around still in a mono green deck to help you sort of ramp into things. We've got Epic Confrontation. Pretty much, I would say the best green removal spell in Standard. It's still not great. That's one of the downsides of going mono green. You just don't have that much great removal, but Epic Confrontation is good for green. And then we have Avatar of the Resolute, who's a 2-mana 3/2, so it triggers Elemental Bond. Plus, we have a few synergies with it that we'll see later, and he has Reach and Trample. And when he enters the battlefield, he gets a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, which can't happen in this deck. Swordwise Centaur, just a boring 2-mana 3/2. Also only going to be around for this one more month of September. And then we have Elemental Bond, which I already showed you, the new card from Magic Origins. And then we have Reverend Hunter. We're going to have pretty high devotion to green. These guys are all double green. This is double green. Lots of double, triple green costs. So Reverend Hunter can be absolutely massive in this deck, and usually is. Boon Satyr, which you can play for flash, also triggers Elemental Bond. It can also be bestowed onto a creature in a situation where I think that's better. It helps you sort of get around mass removal if you can put the Boon Satyr onto one of your creatures because he just comes back afterwards. One of the big stars of the deck is Surak, the Hunt Caller, the one from Dragons of Tarkir. He's a 4-mana 5/4, and his formidable ability is at the beginning of your turn, if you control creatures of power 8 or greater, target creature gains haste until end of turn, and that includes himself. And typically it's going to be pretty easy for him to come in and play on turn 4 and just start bashing between our Boon Satyrs, Reverend Hunters, Swordwise Centaurs, Avatar of the Resolute. Even Elvish Mystic can help get there if it needs to. And he almost always, if you play him on turn 4, is going to be ready to bash, especially if your opponent hasn't interfered with you. Then we have Outland Colossus, one of the other new cards from Magic Origins, a 5-mana 6/6. Can't be blocked by more than one creature and Renown 6, so he just gets huge if he hits the opponent. We have 2 of those. We have 2 Arbor Colossuses, who's also a 5-mana 6/6 with Reach. And he has his Monstrosity ability, which lets him blow up creatures with flying. I have another one in the sideboard because sometimes he's better than Outland Colossus. I have 1 Hydra Broodmaster in here, a 6-mana 7/7 that has a big Monstrosity ability that can put huge Hydras into play, and 1 Genesis Hydra. The reason I have those X spells is that this deck also runs 2 Nykthos Shrine to Nyxes, which have gotten quite cheap recently because they're about to rotate out. So it's fun. I haven't actually built a deck with them before, and now I am running them in this thing, and it can make a huge amount of mana for Genesis Hydra cast that just wins the game, or huge number of Hydras. And it also works pretty well with Elemental Bond because it can add a massive amount of mana to my mana pool, start playing creatures and drawing cards, and just, it's a cycle because if I draw 1 card and it's another creature with power 3 or greater, which is pretty likely, I just get to keep drawing cards. So it's a way to make sure I can play everything I draw. Anyway, that's the deck. I'll show you the sideboard I built for it too. You can kind of adjust it based on your local metagame, of course. I'll sort it by converted mana cost here. I have Feed the Clan in for against burn decks. We're always, not almost always, but pretty frequently going to have Ferocious, and gaining 10 life against burn is just horrible for them. Naturalize for against decks with lots of artifacts and enchantments. 1 Plummet to bring in against dragon decks. couple more removal spells if I feel like I'm low on it. Hunter's Ambush to side in against decks that don't run any green because it could pretty much end up being a huge beating for my opponent. Either when I'm swinging or defending, it can just destroy my opponent if I can make all of their combat damage not count and make all of mine count. Another Outland Colossus. Actually, that's supposed to be an Arbor Colossus, so pretend you didn't see that. Mixing up my Colossuses. One Terra Stomper for against blue decks, and same with Mist Cutter Hydra, who also works well with Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. Anyway, that's the deck. I will pull over the MTGO Traders thing to show you it is under 8 tickets right now, this deck. Most expensive thing, Nykthos is still about 57 cents. I'm recording this at the end of August, so it may have changed a little bit since then. And Avatar of the Resolute, for some reason, has jumped recently. The card was actually much cheaper, but it's up to a ticket right now. Maybe it'll drop back down by the time this video is posted in early September, but we'll see. So the deck is cheap to make, fun to play. I'll play 3 matches with it as always in the just for fun room, as it's just a casual deck. And so yeah, that's the deck tech video for this one. There'll be another one in October as well, and there'll be 3 more matches. 3 matches. You haven't seen any. 3 matches with this deck that will also be in the same playlist as this deck. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.